Welcome to my first wrap up of the year. I can't believe we are already doing this, that it's already time for the first monthly wrap up. But January is over, we have February now, which means I can talk now about the books that I've hauled in the month of January, that I've read and that I will be unhauling now at the end of the month. So let's talk about the books that I've hauled, or let's say the book, because it is only one. I'm very, very proud of myself because even that book wasn't really planned. And I bought it after I saw it on TikTok, on Instagram, by the creator NYC Bookhaul. She organizes book clubs in New York and she makes big TBR challenges on her channels. And I saw on her channel Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. I was super intrigued by it. And then I looked it up on the Big A, and the ebook was under €2. So I bought it. I couldn't help myself here. I was too intrigued by everything I've heard about of monsters and mainframes because this book is super unhinged sci fi. A lot of it written from the perspective of an AI. The plot of this book is that the ship Demeter flies between Earth and Alpha Centauri, where humans have a colony. And on one trip, everybody dies, and someone deleted all the footage, so the AI can't say what happened. The only thing Demeter can remember is that somebody called Dracula logged in, but of course, nobody believes the AI. The ship gets into a port for years, and then she has her next trip, and halfway to Earth, again, a massacre happens. Almost everybody on the ship dies because of a werewolf this time. So we have mystical creatures involved in massacres. And then the AIs, we have two of them, Demeter, the ship's AI, and the medical AI steward. They need to protect these surviving humans, or they try their best to do this. They try to solve the mystery around the vampire and the werewolf. So there is a lot going on in this book. I already needed at this point to cut out stuff of this video because I told too much. Because I've already read the book, but in February. So you will hear more of it in February and in my February wrap up. So stay tuned for that. I end talking about the book here before I again tell you too much. That's it with the books I've heard. As I said, only one book, which makes this video quite shorter than in all the months before. So let's talk about books that I've read. And let's start with the ebooks. I've read four of them. The first book was That One Night by Emily Rath, a spicy novella that I really liked. I've read this on the 1st of January. It was a super quick read. The chemistry between the characters was perfect. I loved this novella and couldn't wait to read more of the Jacksonville Ray series. which I did, but we talk about this later because after that one night, I continued my journey of spicy romances and read Sinner by Sierra Simone. This is book two of the Priest series, and the whole series are spicy taboo romances with a religious focus. And I couldn't remember much of Priest. I've read this years ago, and the only thing I could remember was that it was super spicy. So that was what I expected here, spicy taboo romance. But I got so much more in this book. I really loved the story. I loved the depth of the characters and of the plot. I loved the discussions between someone almost becoming a nun, so quite religious, and someone that is not believing in God at all. Because we had discussions here on eye level, which I love, love, love in the series. And in the end, this stories also made me cry and broke my heart. So I was emotionally attached, which is always a good sign. But to give you an idea of the plot itself, the female main character wants to become a nun. As I said, super religious, and that's all she wants. And then we have the male main character. I already forgot the names here, so we stay with main character here. There is a huge age gap between the two characters, 15 years, and he's her brother's best friend. So, as I said, a lot of taboo topics for this romance, but I think it was really well done. And I not only liked the plot, I also liked the spicy scenes and how the whole story ended. And I was super curious about the next book in the series, which at this point I thought was the last one. Spoiler here, it's not. Two more books of the series are coming out this year, and I can't wait to read them, especially the next book in the series. I'm super interested in that because we already got some teasers in book three of the Priest series, which I read after Sinners. It is called Saint. And also here, I can't remember the names. I'm sorry. But the story is about the male main character's little brother of book two and the older brother of the female character of book two. And this story is set 5 years after book two. In the meantime, one of the characters became a monk and broke up with his partner over that. So, both of our characters were together 5 years before this story starts, and then one of them left out of nowhere to become a monk, and now they are still in love and still struggling with everything that happened back then. So, again, we have not only discussions about religious topics here, we also have very personal discussions over depression and between the lines, also suicide attempt. So, one of the characters, the one that became a monk, really struggled with depressions and he didn't saw a way out of this. He was ready to commit suicide the night someone wrote him a message that led him to become a monk. So, religion saved his life, and he thinks he really needs the structure of being a monk of this whole life. He really needs the focus on God, and his biggest fear is that without all of that, He will fall back into old habits, will struggle with depression again, and he can't do that to his former partner. But now that there is some forced proximity that leads to the both spending time together, he's also really struggling with loving his ex partner and all the feelings that are attached to that. Again, we have also a lot of spicy scenes, a lot of taboo romance, and I didn't like that book as much as book two, mainly because all the heavy topics are more in the end of the book rather than in the whole book. But I really liked the serious discussions about being a monk, struggle with depression, and the struggle to love. And as I said, we also had some teasers for the next book in the story, so I am intrigued by that. I will definitely continue the series. The next book will be out at the end of March, so you will probably see it again then, which means we can come now to the next book that I've read, the last ebook on my list. It is Brimstone by Kelly Hart, the second book in the Fae and Alchemy series. I loved book one, Quicksilver, and I also reread Quicksilver in December to freshen up my knowledge, which was really needed. And I've also read the bonus chapters that are available online before I started Brimstone because I heard on social media that there are necessary informations in the bonus chapters which shouldn't be because these are bonus chapters. But okay, I've read them, I've started Brimstone. I really liked the first half of the book, and then it lost me a little bit because I think the plot was really dragging, mainly because the main characters acted stupid. They were given clear instructions what to do, and then they decide to not do it, to wait with it for absolutely no reason, which makes no sense, especially because they are leaded to everything, especially Cyrus, the female main character. They were even given a cheat book, so they only need to follow these instructions in the cheat book to find solutions for their problems. And I didn't really like that aspect because, as I said, it felt like cheating. And for me, it was way too easy and too convenient that they got that. I like it more when the characters can act on their own and find out things on their own. I think that feels more realistic and more dynamic, which I really missed here. Which doesn't mean that I'm not intrigued to read book three, because I am. I want to know more. Again, we had a cliffhanger in the end here, and I can't wait to continue the series. I think book three will be published in fall this year, so fingers crossed I can continue reading them. But for now, that's it for the Fae and Alchemy series. And I could continue another series, which is the Zodiac Academy series by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. This is the anthology that comes right before the final book. It is called Live and Let Lionel. We have a few short stories here in this book, and bonus POVs to chapters we already had in former books. And I especially liked the short story about Tori and Darcy's parents and how they met. But all in all, it was nice to have, not necessarily needed for the series, but that was exactly what I expected, so I am okay with it. And I will continue the series now in February. Then I had a standalone, which was sent to me by the publisher with sprayed edges. It is The Sword of Kaigan by Emil Wong. And I loved so much about this book. I really wasn't sure if I would like it before I started it, because war stories are not really my thing. But I loved the story and the depth of the story. I loved the social criticism. I loved the character development. I loved so much, and I loved discussing it with my buddy read partners on Discord, because that was a book where we could discuss a lot about the chapters. But then we came to the end, and I was disappointed by it, not because the end was bad, but because it felt like more that this was only the prequel story to a super big high fantasy trilogy or something like that, because so many things are still not concluded. They were just teased about. Not for the main characters here, their story is concluded, but it really felt like there must be more of this story, of this world building, of the younger characters. I want to see them in a big war to fight for revenge, for the right thing, to rebel against the government. But there is nothing after this book. It is a standalone, and that's what disappointed me. So, in this case, disappointment is a good thing because I want more, but I can't get it. So, that's it. I have to live with it. I've heard from one of my friends that I've read the book with that they were more books of this world, but Emma Rung wrote them when she was really young, so 12 or so, and that she decided to take them out of print because she no longer stands behind these stories, that she grew out of them. And honestly, I can understand her, so I can't be mad about it, and can just hope that she will rewrite these stories at some point. I don't want to give that hope up, but that's it for A Sword of Kaigen. So, after this 600-page book, I read an even longer book. We also have sprayed edges here. And it is the sequel to The Will of the Many, The Strength of the Few by James Arlington. One of my most anticipated reads of 2025. And I also got a review copy here, which makes me so happy. And I really liked this sequel. The story was super complex, more complex than in book one, because instead of one storyline, we have three now. Sometimes the storylines were a bit passive or more our main character. This is very passive. Things happen to him, he needs to react. But like in book one, I like him more active than passive, that he is the one acting and the others need to react. That's something I missed here in a few scenes, but I also understand why it is like it is. Because this is thrown into these situations. He don't know the other persons. He don't know what's happening and is really overwhelmed by everything. So of course he just reacts to things. But another thing that I also criticized here, and that is also true for The Will of the Many, is that the female characters felt super flat, that I don't really feel the romances between characters because the female characters have no personality, no depth, and that's really disappointing. But all in all, I loved book two a little bit less than book one, but still, it is really, really great, and I can't wait to continue the series at some point. The only thing we know right now is that it will be called The Justice of One, and it will be probably released next year, so 2027. We have to wait a little bit here. We need to be patient. And the only good thing about that is that I can read a lot of other books in the meantime. Like this 600-page romance books, or whether it's 700 pages. I don't remember, but I remember that it is the first book in the Jacksonville Ray series. After the novella That One Night, it is called Packing Around, also by Emily Rath. And that is super spicy ice hockey romance and white shoes. So we have our main character, Rachel. She is part of the medical team of the Jacksonville Rays, a new ice hockey team based in Florida. And she is also the newest member of the team. And she starts a relationship with two of the hockey players and one of the hockey players' best friend that also works for the team. So, a lot of spice here, and honestly, the plot builds around the spice, not the other way around. It is lacking depth, it is lacking depth of relationship or character development. So, for me personally, this book could have been a duology on its own just to give it more depth, but it is what it is. And I think the spicy scenes are well written, at least in the first half of the book, when they are all acting together, the whole party. It got a bit technical, but all in all, this book was entertaining. I liked especially the male main characters. They all have their own personality, which I really liked. And we also have some bi romance here. So, characters that not only have a relationship with Rachel, but also on their own, which I really appreciated. All in all, this book was okay to me, but I will definitely continue the series. The next book is called Packing Wild, and that will be a hetero romance, so just MF romance. We will see if the relationship and the characters itself will have more depth there. We'll see. Before Packing Wild, I want to read Packing Ever After Volume 1 at some point, but I have time to do that, or we have time, because that was also a buddy read. Like the strength of the few, I think I haven't said that. But this is with a friend of mine that reads the series in German, and book 2 won't be out in German until May. So we have to wait for that. But that's okay. And for now, that's it. You can see 8 books read, 4 of them physical, 1 book hauled. So I really like this result. I could reduce my TBR in January. That was a super successful year. I'm very proud of myself. I hope we have a similar result in February, but I know I will be hauling more than 1 book in February, so we'll see. And before I end the video, let's talk about unhauling books. And in this case, I only need to think about 4 books here because I only unhaul, of course, physical books. But at least for now, I want to keep all 4 of them. So that is also quickly done, which means we are already at the end of the video. Please tell me in the comments what you have read in January. What was your favorite book? What was your least favorite book? Like this video if you wanna, follow my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!